There you go. It says I'm live now. Oh man. So been a fun week. I was working on videos today and I got pretty far. Now I lost my screwdriver. Anyways, got pretty far and they said, I'm just gonna do a live streams. I want to kind of talk about Homelab and things I got going on and finishing up some videos that I'm working on. So it's been kind of hectic because I spent the last week doing the ConnectWise event. I have a whole talk that I did there, which I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to present it because it's kind of a weird thing. The way you present on YouTube is substantially different, of course, than the way you would present at an event. So my presentation at the event looks like this. Share screen. Your standard presentation style, but that doesn't really lean itself as well to presenting on YouTube. But the content's good. So I am building a whole video series about this. Now, the good news is there's already videos that exist on some of it, like Graylog got videos on it that can be skipped altogether. But I know a lot of people are interested in this. So I'm going to be doing some videos about Security Onion, and I think it's just a really neat product. And as someone said on Twitter when it got tagged on a post for me giving a presentation on it, someone said it's criminal how few people know about this. And I'm going to go with that's probably true. So that's not enough people know about Security Onion and just how cool it is. And so that's something I'm going to bring to the table a little bit is some videos about Security Onion, probably just one video. I've talked about it before on the channel as a podcast, but I've never done a full video on it. And it's going to be kind of a getting started, what you need to do. And it's really a pretty amazing threat hunting tool that's completely free and open source. Matter of fact, I don't think anything even comes close to it in terms of capabilities of what you can do with it. It just blows your mind that has that much functionality and that it's completely free. I'm going to fire it up while I'm sitting here. There we go. I have it on another system over here. And there's been a few questions about the systems that I was running, the XCP-ng, the little mini PCs that I was running. That photo really got more popular than I expected. And, it's pretty neat. Let me pull up the social media post that this is on. The photo is this right here that I was running. And these are, they're still sitting just like that. Oh, dinner's ready. So you're gonna be able to catch the live stream, but I'll have to catch up and replay. I might still be live streaming when you're done with dinner. So if I'm around, feel free to ping me on that. Feel free to jump in. But I wanted to talk about some of the Homelab stuff, and I'm, blown away with how well this works. And I really like this, a couple little separate PCs that aren't too expensive, and it's just a pretty slick system, being able to run all this. I'm running Security Onion. I'm actually, because this part of my presentation was Wazoo as well. So I had Wazoo, a bunch of other open source tools on here, and room to spare. It's running all my other things as well. It's so impressive that this idles, including the switch, at just under 30 watts. I'd say 30 watts. I think it was like 29 watts is what it came out to be, but still under 30 watts is impressive idle. Granted, with full workloads, I think it can hit like 60 or 70. It came up to close to 100 watts, but not quite, I think. And hopefully you're not running it at full tilt all the time. Even running Security Onion, which definitely pushed the wattage up a little, didn't kill it. But yeah, it's pretty wild that how much power you can get out of such a small little device, especially considering I was doing some filming today because I'm going to finish the video on my R740 because we've been doing a lot of the R740s. So I wanted to finish a video on it, but this is, let me see if I can, hold on. Where'd it go? Server at idle using about 250 watts by comparison. Now, granted, the Dell server is definitely more powerful, but from a Homelab perspective, something that can't even achieve 250 watts and idles at 20, the Dell starts at 230 watts and only goes up from there. It's going to be like 600 or 700 watts under full load. So a pretty big difference on there. This is the Dell R740 that I'm going to be doing a review on pretty soon here, but substantially different power profiles. Of course, the Dell looks cooler. There's no doubt about that. When we go and look at the Dell server, pull up a picture of it. Where did that Dell server? There's the Dell server. The Dell server definitely looks cooler, but it's definitely a whole lot more wattage. Hey, Tom, what do you suggest for a home firewall, for a VM for home firewall for free? pfSense is going to be my recommendation on there. Ooh, I see we have a Jason going to jump in. Okay, yeah. He's got control, so he can jump in when he wants. There's I messaged Slagle to join me. We love answering all the Homelab stuff. I had an R810 and an R410. They were about 1,600 watts to idle, a lot more than I wanted to run at home, but look great in the garage for a week. Yeah. They take up there's some serious wattage used by these devices, but like I said, they look really cool. This particular one got all the. I'll pull up the actual interface because it looks cool. I like the Dell iDRAC on the new ones. It's definitely pretty slick. My one keyboard broke. I gotta. Well, it didn't really break. I spilled water on it, which is kind of like breaking. I broke it. So I have this crappy old keyboard and I don't like typing on it. But I really like the way the Dell storage looks on this. Shows you the drives and everything. It's just a nice, I like the interface on this quite a bit. This is the new lab server, and these are all NVMEs. So we have 12 NVMEs in this, and it's a ZFS NVMe array for a virtualization server. So here's the 2 boot drives. I have these if I want to build another storage array. I'm not out of storage yet because I have so much in reserve here. Matter of fact, if we do this, host, actually go to storage. I have 7.8 terabytes of NVMe ZFS RAID Z2 storage on this. Yeah, eventually this is the one that'll come down. It's all set up. We just need a place to put it down there essentially. But yeah, that's the one. It's up and running. I got all the video I needed for the review, so it's just a matter of whenever we get the other whenever we get the lab set up, whenever we get the firewall installed down in the Toledo office. So it's running in the Southgate office right now. Bit of a random thought. Has anyone ever made a Blade server equivalent with multiple mini PCs? I haven't seen anyone, but I can share this. Actually, a lot of you are gonna get a kick out of this because this is something I'm gonna work with my friend on who built this. Where did it go? I have permission to share it as soon as I figure out where I put it. There we go. Can I open it like this? There we go. The answer is kind of yes. This is my friend's rack that he 3D printed, and he's got the 1 liter PCs, as I've heard them called. The mini, they're the Dell kind of small form factor PCs, and he's building a rack and he's got them all in there, and he's working out the cabling so it looks nice too. This is kind of clever though, because he built all the little pieces to it. You print out all the 3D components, and you slide all the systems in here, and yeah, you can build a rack out of basically exactly like that. I think it's a really clever idea. Jay from Learn Linux TV, we 3D printed his whole Raspberry Pi 4 rack. He runs Kubernetes on. I can't remember how many Pis are in there. Jeff Geerling, he didn't 3D print it, but Jeff Geerling has one as well for Raspberry Pis. This one's all just a bunch of mini servers, and I think this might be a fun idea to build too. Because you can get these in the secondary market relatively cheap. And I'm going to probably go with, if which one's more reliable is probably going to be these than a mini PC that of some of these off-brand ones. Overall, the mini PCs like the B-Links have been pretty good, but I don't know what they really look like long term. Yeah. The the long term is a lot better. Jason, do you need me to put you in or
No,
okay.
I was just waiting for you to be okay with it.
Yeah, I don't care.
I have the button.
Okay, I thought you did.
Yeah, I was on the wrong audio device at first.
Yeah. This is our friend's God, what is I know him as Focal Fury. I'm trying to remember from Ninja One, the backup guy. Dan. I only know him because of his naming MSP Geek. That's
Dan, yeah.
Yeah, but this is his. And because I was like, yeah, he's building out
those are insanely reliable. We sell a ton of the Intel or Lenovo ones, and like I've rarely had one fail.
Yeah, they just work really well. I think B-Link, compared to all of them I've taken apart now, and I think you poked at a couple of them when you were in my lab there. The B-Links are really nice. The Ace Magics are the cheapest things. If you get them on sale for dirt cheap on Amazon, they're probably worth it. I wouldn't want to run one at like full workload for a year. For idle and little stuff, I've had mine for like 6 months and doing stuff on it, but something about it doesn't feel as quality as the B-Link.
Thermal management on them is just trash, right? So I think they just burn themselves out after a while. Whereas these actually have fans and stuff in them.
Yeah, the B-Link's well made and doesn't even get warm. Like I put CPU stress, pinned all the pinned CPUs for like an hour. Gets warm, but not even hot. The Ace Magic security onion I thought was going to kill it.
Yeah, but that's the difference between like one of these, like one of the 1 liter PCs or a well-designed like fanless or low noise one, and like a top ton box, right? Is that like a lot of engineering went into the thermals of the 1 liter PCs?
Yeah. I can tell you that this is a bad idea. The question I have pulled up on here.
I responded to it in chat. Like, is it running as a VM? Like, that's supported in NFS to have shared storage, and there's probably options you can turn on to make it work in SMB too. But man, I would not want to do that.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. You don't want to. They're generally it's an added feature they have for XCP-ng to be able to do it, but I can't think of any good reason to, because there's like, why would I want to do this over SMB? That seems like a terrible idea. Best way, do I blow away but keep ZFS pools? I can reinstall and import pool. I've done a lot of changes. Things have gotten a bit messy. Yeah, you can just you can reload the boot drives and just re-import the pool. And it works as long as you don't have as long as you don't blow away the encryption. If you're using encryption, so if you're using encryption on the drives, you're gonna have a bad time. Make sure you create a backup of it. Someone says I've been running B-Link for 3 years. I have no issues. Yeah, the quality's night and day between B-Link and the Ace Magics are weird too, because they weren't thrilled with me because they sent it to me, and when I say all thoughts are my own, that includes my thoughts when I said I can't tell what the brand is because there's 4 companies making the same device. They didn't like that in the video. They sent me an email. But then immediately someone else sent me another email from Ace Magic, wanted me to review another one. That's how I ended up with 3 Ace Magic boxes. They complained it the way I did the video each time, but kept sending me another one. I don't think they care. What options are there for 10 gig SFP or higher for these sort of tiny micro machines? There's very little out there that's got 10 gig. Certa Home covered a couple of them.
The 1 liters or the or something else?
Both. Either one. The 1 liters, it's hard to find that card.
Yeah, some of the Lenovo's that we have a single PCIe low profile slot in it, so you could put one in it. That's probably your best options.
Yeah, it's just hard to find one that doesn't that seem to fit. Well, I remember looking. If you find them on eBay, they had them where they shipped with it. I think HP made the ones that shipped with a 10 gig in them, but they're stupidly expensive because they're rare. And I think there's just enough demand on the Homelab for them. Serve the Home covered a couple of those, like Quotum, I think makes some like the industrial PC boxes that has that FFP on them. There was that other company I covered called R68 or R86 or something like that, but they kind of vanished. They made a couple devices and just poofed. But that's the problem with these companies. They make them because the one I have, they sent me one that has a pair of 25 gigs on it and it's a tiny PC with a pair of 25 gigs. But even in my review, I pointed out, if you leave the cover on it, even though it's got a fan, you have to take the covers off and put it on its side or it just overheats. It can't, it works, but as soon as you actually use the 25 gigs, it just thermal meltdowns.
A couple of the Lenovo's for sure have PCIe adapters. I don't think any of the current generation do, but some of the older generation ones do. There's a whole forum on Serve the Home here. If I post a comment as you, it will. It will allow the URL, right? Okay.
Yep.
I'll just post a link.
Yep. Post it as me.
Yeah, it's fine.
If you have, USB backups for 20 terabytes is even more terrible idea than USB backups.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good way to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
You're rsyncing. I mean, technically from the command line, you can format a USB to ZFS. You could do a ZFS send and sync it. There's not going to be any facility within TrueNAS to make that work. I don't think it recognizes. Maybe it'll recognize if you mount it from the command line, a USB drive, but the reliability always seems poor on those.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are better, but again, 20 terabytes. Like, how, right? Like I guess you're going to use a 24 terabyte external. They do exist.
Bad
idea.
One of the things that works really well too, it's a 2-core Atom processor. One of my old backup boxes is still running. I just keep it running for the hell of it. I don't need it. It's technically a third backup, but it's a 2-core Atom processor with 8 gigs of RAM, and it's got 40 terabytes of storage because you can do that with ZFS. It is running TrueNAS, but it runs core because I think it would die in scale. Maybe it wouldn't now they got the Kubernetes removed from it. Maybe it'd actually work properly. They have an HL15 maxed out, needs more storage. Thinking JBOD, but not sure if that's the best choice using TrueNAS core.
It's probably fine.
Yeah, JBOD, pop a card in with an external SAS.
HBA in it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has PCIe slots, if I recall. It does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the HL15 is a standard Supermicro motherboard. Matter of fact, it's got quite a few PCI slots.
Yeah.
Because they're using some of the built-in on the board. Because the board has built-in SAS expander. How do you restore if you have pfSense before the lab license change, they key off of the WAN of your system. That they use the MAC address of the WAN or the LAN, one of the two. I can't remember which one. It's if you read their forums, it's in there. That will automatically reactivate if you're using the same device. So if you reload it, it automatically detects that I'm almost positive it's the MAC address of the WAN, and it says, hey, you've already registered this MAC address, and it'll let you reuse it again. I don't know if they've changed it since then, but that's the way they were doing it. Because there's not really any other registration stuff or anything they were really sending. Have you tried the latest beta, given early beta vibes? I haven't tried it yet. It's on my to-do list. They got the new management interface that's going to be out before the end of the year. I've seen it. I've looked at it. I haven't really used or tested it because I haven't rolled any of the systems to the beta yet. It came out just before we went to IT Nation. So mini forums, they might have some. Mini forums make some cool PCs. For the 20 terabyte, set up a second TrueNAS box and rsync it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, do ZFS replication because that's faster than rsync substantially. ZFS, that's why I run a second box that's running TrueNAS. ZFS replication is done at the block level. And the reason that's handy is I move files between folders all the time. Like I have my production stuff I'm working on for videos, and then I move all those videos to another folder. From a block level change, that's a file pointer change, as in it syncs some file pointers. In rsync world, it goes, look, this data's gone. Now this data's over here. Let's resend it all.
There are command line options to make that not the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not default ones.
No, they're not the default. So you're, and rsync also, because it has to figure out if you have thousands of little files, rsync has to constantly be indexing them. So it actually churns the drives a whole lot more to do rsync versus ZFS is a copy on write file system looking at the block level changes. It knows the differentials in block. That's why it works so much faster. I have one system running core still just because.
I just happened to see the picture you put of the neighbors.
Oh,
Slack.
Yeah, I should share that because that made me laugh because I was just like, well, they've updated their risk model because I shared the video on YouTube.
And they're just going to go in diagonally on the corner now.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So our neighbors who, for those of you that maybe didn't see it, but I did show it on a live stream a while back, someone drove through the building in a car. So they wanted to get the pawn stuff out. And they failed at the mission, but they did drive the car through, as you can see by the replaced brick. So now they put up the posts, and it made me laugh when I went over to the office today and seen that. I was like, well, actually, it made me laugh, but this is the part that got me. I don't know if you've seen this picture, but they're not straight. One of them is further forward than the other four.
Yeah.
There's 4 and there's one further the other way.
And they're crooked. Who did that?
I don't know.
And how are they in the ground? I have so many questions.
I know. They cut giant holes in the cement and repoured cement and sunk them. It looks like I seen all the cut marks for the cement. So they cut out the cement to do it and then poured these in. I don't know how I'm guessing drilled it or something. I have no idea. They weren't there when I left. I get back from Florida and there they are. Any thoughts on the enterprise campus switches from Ubiquiti? Think about replacing my aggregation switch, new campus PoE 24. I like them. I like where Ubiquiti is going with them. I can't remember if I'm supposed to tell anyone or not, so I'll say it anyways. I have some of them. They told me I can't talk about them. I can't show them, I think is what he said. Not yet. I said, okay. So I can just say I have them.
But I think they're out. Like they're on the site now.
Yeah, they have a weird thing with the creators. I think they do this to me. Maybe they'll pay attention and catch me on this one. I noticed my friends all got the NAS and were able to release it before I was. And it's because I have thoughts, and they're like, yeah, hold that thought. We want the people that just get excited about our products, Tom, to talk about them before you complain that it doesn't have ZFS.
Yeah, campus aggregation is a neat switch.
Yeah. How does the minis forum MSO1 work with XCP-ng? Saw Vate's XCP-ng and had an official blog post regarding Project Telly. I don't think I found any of these mini PCs that don't work with XCP-ng. All the ones I've loaded, I've had no problems. The only thing you might have to change, and there's a bunch of forum posts, you'll get where it gets stuck on IOMMU. Some of them, there's something you have to change or disable in the IOMMU, but you're not like passing through any devices usually because there's no PCIe devices. So that there's some setting you'll find in the forums. If you have a model that has a problem, all the ones I've had out of the box default BIOS settings work perfectly fine.
The other thing is, like, you probably want to run modern, like 8.3 or 8.2, or the 226 driver's not there.
They backported. So if you even if you just go back to the old one, they backported. Which I thought was kind of cool. But I mean, the support runs out in 6 months for it, so you may as well start with 8.3. Just go to the latest version. There's not any compelling reason I can tell you to use the old version, unless you're setting up the. They've marked it as beta. If you're using their hyperconverge is still beta on 8.3. They said give it till January and they'll have it all sorted out. They're rewriting the whole storage backend. The SNM API is being completely refactored. I think it's all being rewritten in Rust as well, but they're fixing all the little bugs that people had. They're fixing speed issues. They're fixing the 2 terabyte limit issues. All that is coming along quite well. You can actually test it out. They have a beta, or you can switch to the beta API. I don't think I'd recommend it right now based on some of the things. I don't know. Well, it depends on how much you want to test things.
That's a good price on the Ubiquity. I was comparing it to like the SF or FS switches, which are the other
Oh,
cheap
yeah.
ones I've seen used, and it's a little bit cheaper than those.
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for an RMM like tactical?
Intune.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember Jason, was it you who said,
God.
I looked at it for 5 minutes, found 2 things I could break on it, and decided not to play with it no more, like 2 potential security vulnerabilities?
Tactical? No, I mean there was a whole controversy over the miner in it. Like
Yeah.
dude, I just don't want to touch it. Roost has a project. What was that called? Hold on. Agent Smith. So
Well, that's
Roost
cool.
has a really lightweight agent you can run that if you wanted to build an RMM around it, you could.
And if you're just looking for monitoring, it may not be exactly what you're looking for, but Zabbix is pretty impressive for monitoring and has Windows clients you can run on there. Wazoo, I was actually, when I set that up, Wazoo, I was really impressed with how well that worked. I was like, this is slick. It's just OSEC with a pretty interface, but you get quite a bit of information back from the clients on there, and that's open source. It was actually really easy to deploy. I would not replace our RMM with it. I mean, it's not that full featured, but it'll get you somewhere further than nothing.
We've done CheckMK a lot too, which I believe is now EOS based. At least it was. I think maybe they've moved away from that now. But that's another one. But that's just for monitoring, not management.
Yeah. I haven't really, we haven't sold as many camera projects lately, and I don't know. I didn't know they were out of stock or not available. I haven't really looked for them.
They support like every camera under the sun, so maybe they just realized they didn't need to do it themselves anymore.
Well, the only reason they were doing it themselves is probably just a demand thing.
Yeah.
There's very few companies on NDAA compliance. Synology cameras are compliant. Axis cameras are compliant. I can't name too many other brands. Synology was 1/4 the price of an Axis camera. Because we had a couple bids out there, and people only wanted NDAA compliant, not because they wanted it. They wanted to buy American made type attitude until they seen the price. And yeah, it goes from like $80 a camera for an Amcrest to, I think it's like $650 a camera for the Axis ones. I'm like, that's the price difference. But Synology kind of came in between because the Synology ones are about $200 a piece and compliant. But they only had 2 models, so you had very limited.
That.
Yeah, it was very limited.
I have some very good.
They're mediocre. Like, they're not super high res. They're mediocre cameras. They work. I've had mine for a year.
Megapixel.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're not. They made they said they were going to come up with more, and just never did.
I wonder who they were OEMing that they parted ways with, and that's why they're not available anymore.
Yeah, it kind of fuzzy on that. We have a bartender in our Homelab. That's our AI system. It actually has a purpose at work where we use it for scopes of work and things like that. That way we can keep everything private. That's why we have a self-hosted one. But there's just a lot going on with all the Olama and models and stuff, man. It's fun to play with. I love that you can self-host these, and it's just I'm blown away with how good it is running it locally.
I think I'm going to move from Olama to Llama.cpp for reasons, but in the end, Olama uses Llama.cpp on the backend anyway.
Yeah. So the hosting your own AI Homelab stuff, I'm actually glad that there's been a lot of development that isn't just renting it as a service in the cloud, but people can actually play with it, because even if you're CPU bound, it's not super fast, but you can run some of the smaller models CPU bound without a GPU. And it's like, okay, this is reusable, better than nothing. I was running it on one of the I didn't take the time to rebuild it, but I have one of the new Ryzen AI chips, and there's going to be pretty soon a way to take advantage of the new Ryzen AI chip, so you don't have to even have that, and it's supposed to work pretty good. But even without that, other than using up a lot of memory, I was kind of surprised with. It's like you can watch it typing. It's not as fast when you have a GPU, but I would say very acceptable. Definitely enough to get playing with it.
Well, and if you want to play more, just go get like a Mac Mini, right? Like that'll that will for sure do what you need to do. It won't
Yeah,
run
there's already
probably
been some reviews on
90B.
that. That Mac Mini, you know what's crazy is everyone joked about Apple being overpriced, but now I can't
Yeah.
sell you the equivalent PC for that. I can't
Nope.
replace my MacBook
Correct.
Air. I can't tell
Yeah.
you anything that costs as much as a
Man,
MacBook Air with that much power.
$600. It only has 256 gigs SSD, right? And only 16 gigs of RAM, but man, it's fast.
Yeah. Well, in the SSD is upgradable.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I
I
see
forgot it
someone take
was.
one apart. Not the Mac Mini one.
Yeah, that's at Agent Smith.
Yeah. I've been considering deploying Graylog on scale, where the logs live anyways. What's your thoughts on that? You know, since it's all in Docker, I'm just going to try and do the same thing. Since Scale's got rid of Kubernetes and just pure Docker, you can load Dockage on it, so you can manage all your Docker images. But yeah, I think that seems like an ideal place to run. I mean, Graylog is disk intensive. Put it where the disks live. I think that's actually having your logging server and your storage server in the same place, because when Graylog boots up right now for me, it mounts via NFS where it stores all the logs, because I don't want them stored in a VM because there's terabytes of logs I put in there. So that's actually something I want to do as well. I have to upgrade one of my bigger servers, which it doesn't use much CPU right now. So I'm hoping Graylog will be a good offload to it. That's part of why I'm rebuilding all the lab stuff up in the Southgate office, just to migrate everything into new places. Refurbished Mac Studio Ultra runs 70B LLMs without any issues, only 70 watts while doing AI stuff. That's impressive. Oh, yeah, finally. This is one of the things that was missing from UniFi for a while. The layer 3 routing had no ACL options.
Is everything in the slow path, though? Like mikrotick, where like it's CPU? What are you drinking beer?
I was told with the new switches, no, it's supposed to be really fast.
Okay.
Someone told me it gets line speed now, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah, okay. So they're doing it on hardware then. Like
Yep.
Yeah. So you have a bourbon and a beer. You need to go get a scotch.
Yes. I was going to grab scotch, but I got the bourbon first. But if I run out of bourbon, I switch to scotch. Couldn't decide which one I wanted. We recently had a forceful takeover of old contractors' UniFi infrastructure, and as a Cisco admin, I'm not overly impressed. They had two devices just brick themselves during a reset process.
Yeah,
I think you
that's
reset them wrong. Yeah.
No, I mean it's a thing. Like we've had them not play well. APs especially.
I guess they're weird. I rarely have had to reset them. So, do you have any tips for UniFi?
Yeah, we've had a couple. Remember that we had that one, the fully managed client that somebody was running a controller on site. We couldn't find it. It was gone.
Oh yeah.
And then we had to get a man lift out to go press the stupid button and every one of the stupid things.
Yeah, that's just annoying as hell when someone does that. I mean, it's kind of true for anything. I don't know. How would you deal with that with Meraki? Just find a device number and switch. Like if someone had a Meraki in their account, you can take them over by giving them.
No, you can take over the whole org. There's a whole method to just switch the org to your management.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Honeywell cameras? I've never looked at anything Honeywell did.
Other than the Z-Wave thermostats, those are cool.
Yeah, the Z-Wave thermostats, but I didn't even know they were doing any camera stuff at all.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do all this.
Are they just rebranding garbage stuff, or are they actually building it?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were the OEM that like Access uses, honestly.
Huh, yeah. No, well, Access makes their own. That's why they charge an arm and a leg for everything. If you set up the UniFi right from the get-go and put the controller proper, I don't have any problems with it. You know, any of the consulting I've done when someone's got a UniFi controller that's causing problems, like a bunch of outages and stuff, like there's a whole video I did on tuning large installs, and most of that is still relevant. Biggest problem I've seen is one of them was dumb. I mean, they had over 300 UniFi devices, like 320 UniFi devices, and they were trying to run it on an Intel i5 with 4 gigs of RAM or something, like first gen i5. They took an old PC, loaded Linux, stuck the UniFi controller on there. The CPUs are pinned, all 4 cores, and just,
Mongo.
hey, it isn't working right. Shocking. Like, I can't solve this with a consulting call. There's no the consulting call was more than just buying a PC that would solve this problem. Been having challenges with permissions. I'm assuming you're talking about TrueNAS. The permissions haven't changed. My video on permissions for TrueNAS scale is relevant. It's for SMB permissions. I got to test because me and Jason were talking about the NFS permissions and whether or not they're still stupid.
They're stupid. That's the guy that was asking about Greylog. Yeah, so my guess is he wants a video on running Greylog in Docker and the permissions required to make that work. For the host note.
Just set the permissions to app.
Yeah.
Docker expects inside of TrueNAS, Docker expects things to run with app permissions, APP. So you can set the ACLs to that and it'll work fine. I will say the new UniFi stuff is really slick with the new cameras they have. UniFi is just killing it. I'm going to do some updated reviews because I got to see some stuff that's upcoming and I got to see how much of it is out so I can figure out how much I can talk about. They previewed it basically at their Ubiquity event, but their timeline for some really clever things that are not, they're all software driven enhancements that are really impressive. What I watched some reveal, so to speak. I think a bunch of it got dumped to Reddit. Though he said it's stupid. There's people like posting in Reddit from the thing while they're telling us, "Hey guys, don't as creators, we'll kick you out of the creator program if you post stuff." Hypothetical situation: national disaster wiped out your house and Homelab. Everything's covered by insurance. What strategy would you start from scratch, hardware wise? What would you? I mean, just buy the same stuff again. I don't know. I'm not particular about the hardware. I don't have any particular love for a brand. Yeah. I've got a hodgepodge of hardware because I like testing different things.
I have a hodgepodge of hardware because it's largely stuff that has come from other places.
Yeah. It's like I got one of these servers and one of those servers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice if I'm buying new. I'd have all new switches. My switches date from first gen UniFi stuff because it hasn't died. So it's still, it ain't broke, don't replace it. And I have some of your latest gen stuff, which works perfectly fine. I was looking at it because I was moving a switch. That's out of reach. I have one of their first 10 gig switches that they made. I took it out because I needed it here because it was just hanging out at the office doing nothing because I moved to the USW aggregation switches for the office. And now I have the new 100 gig switches with MC lag that'll be testing at the office. So I took out some of the old ones and I haven't had any issue. They're still working fine. Matter of fact, I opened it up to see if there's any dust in it because it's probably been running for like 5 years or 6 years. Barely even any dust in it, even though it's been running the whole time. The fans spin pretty slow on them, so they're not drawing. They're not like the old switches that had like so many CFM and they just filtered all the dust. They're stuck with dust bunnies.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would change out my networking gear. I'm mostly Meraki here. It's a combination of Meraki and Catalyst.
Yeah, stuff just works. Oh yeah, torn between an AI machine for a Homelab with a Threadripper Pro.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier. Not a good AI. That's not a good AI card, right? Like you want VRAM, and the RTX series don't have enough VRAM, so you want whatever model they end up releasing based on the same architecture and cores that the 5090 have, which isn't out yet. I do not believe.
Yeah. I do have the new UniFi NAS. I got it just before I went to Florida for an event. So I got to find some drives to stick in it. That's all. I got some laying around. I just haven't put them in there yet. Yeah, this was funny if you didn't see the attack method for this. Um, there was a bunch of emails with .rdp attachments that would start reverse connections because someone will open that.
People are dumb.
Yeah, I love those. I love those ones that have people hitting Windows key R paste because the website can put the URL in and a Windows key paste it in. Once again, people. I'm not really impressed with the lack of MC lag for the pro-aggregation switches. The team to fix that with the new enterprise line. Yes, they have. The new ones, they just got MC lag on.
Yeah, that requires some sort of centralized controller to manage that, and I don't think they could do it before because the switches don't talk to each other. They only talk to the controller.
Yeah. They now, when you plug the switches in 100 gig, they light up and an MC lag button pops up. You can just build them. One nice thing that I will say for UniFi, like the menu where you set up MC lag, it's just easy. It's the same thing like when they did their shadow mode, it takes you about 4 minutes to get an HA pair set up. It's like a couple clicks, it pauses, and it even tells you move the cable here. It gives a little diagram like an animation. Like level 1 tech can absolutely get HA pair set up inside of there. And the same thing with MC lag. I think that's not a bad thing because like being able to make it a little bit easier for kind of what our basic deployments are a good thing.
Yeah, I do not believe the average tech can trouble issues you run into running things like MC lag. Like, I mean, we're going through one right now on those FS switches, I believe, with out of order packet delivery.
Yeah, it's I will be setting one up in production to see how good they actually work in production because I want to make them fail over. I want to force the fail over on them and stuff like that. I haven't had time to do that yet because I got them in the alpha stage and I had alpha stage problems with them. They fixed them with some firmware updates. I don't have any issues anymore. If a VM drive is on an NFS share and snapshots on TrueNAS, do I need to have snapshots on XCP? Yes, I highly recommend the snapshots be on XCP-ng and on TrueNAS, and they're going to be for different reasons. With XCP-ng, it's just a quick rollback to do the snapshot. And when you do a snapshot in XCP-ng, it's not just snapshotting the storage, it's snapshotting every setting, all data, metadata around that VM. So if you were to delete a network interface and then roll back to the snapshot, that interface will come back. Everything comes back with the snapshot.
Does XCP-ng have like integration tools with TrueNAS that can just offload those snapshots to the TrueNAS box?
No.
That'd be cool.
So it still has to measure the delta for the snapshots.
Yeah.
But I mean, if on the other side of it, if you're using backups through XCP-ng, then it's not really much of an issue because like I have a snapshot here, but it's because of the backups that are attached to it. So the backups that are attached to it, then you don't really, once you go to the next version, this is still on 8.2, but systems on 8.3. Let me find one. The disk supports change block transfers. So if I check this box here, cool. Now the backup doesn't even need a snapshot. It can do the differential without creating a snapshot.
Yeah,
so
it's change blocks tracking. That's Veeam does that for all of its stuff.
Yeah. So 8.3 has change block tracking. So if you have that turned on, you don't even need snapshots. And then you're just doing it for backup purposes to have it on TrueNAS. Then you see what TrueNAS is. You're backing up where you're snapshotting, I should say, not technically backing up. You're snapshotting all of that data set. So every one of them will have a restore point. So if you have something like a threat actor who gets into your control plane of your XCP-ng and has a jolly good time deleting everything, but they don't get into your TrueNAS, then you could revert back to a time when things were happier. By the way, keep your control planes all separate. Everything should have different passwords. Is there a way to license Meraki gear for Homelab? Did they have that type of licensing?
I don't think so. I would actually just replied to that in chat. We're a partner, right? So as a partner, I get you get a certain amount of NFR a year, and it's like 80 points off list for hardware and like 90 points off for licensing or something like that. So that's how I got mine.
Mm.
So like the switch that's normally like $1,500 with the 5-year license, I think I paid like $300 for.
Yep. I'm still working on the UniFi NAS. As soon as I get that plugged in. Is change rock transfer more efficient snapshots? I figure snapshots should be better. They're different use cases. Yeah. That's just the method by which they're transporting the data is under change block transfer.
Change block tracking allows backups or snapshots to only it keeps an internal memory list of what actual blocks on the disk have been written since it last did it, so it knows exactly what data it has to go get to actually do the backup or snapshot. It's different. I presume XCP-ng snapshots are also copy and write, right? So they're different there too.
Yeah. The snapshots are more than just the drive. They're, as I said, all the metadata around that VM. Even the naming, if you make notes on the VM, that's a feature. I actually like this feature they added. You can use this in Markdown syntax to add notes to it. So notes about Windows 11. So you can do that and put some syntax in here, whatever you want for all Markdown. And as you do things, actually, this one should probably see. This is one of my YouTube demos. This is one of Tom's VMs. But yeah, I like the way you can add these little notes, but all this is also stored as the backup and part of the metadata. So when you restore this VM or move it somewhere else or anything like that, or if it gets goofed up and you revert it, these notes all follow with it, which I think is kind of cool. Let's see. XCP-ng related. How do you personally go about an installation of a single NVMe machine, limited networking before 2.5 gig before Thunderbolt? Even with 2.5 gig, you'd be surprised how well that works. 2.5 gig's fine to connect to a storage server.
Yep. If you don't know, I would recommend most users probably do NFS because it's a lot more forgiving than iSCSI when you screw it up.
Yes, very much so. You could Google your way to recovery with NFS. You'll be on the 4th page, 5th page of Google considering iSCSI stuff.
Yeah, I mean iSCSI. I mean it is SCSI over IP, right? So it is a block device that you are physically talking to, and it has a bunch of interesting things with timeouts and stuff like that. And badness happens if the storage just goes away out from under it. NFS is a file system, and it just sits there and waits if the storage in the network goes away. So it's different use cases. I recommend if you don't know what you're doing and don't want to run a separate storage network, you're probably better served with NFS.
Yeah, it's also thin provision, so that adds to the.
You know my thoughts on thin provisioning.
Yeah,
I hate thin
it's a way to get yourself in trouble in a completely different way.
Yeah, so you should just do thin provisioning with iSCSI and double your pain.
Double your pain. What's there between XCP-ng and Proxmox snapshots and backups? Proxmox doesn't have completely the same concept. I don't think Proxmox stores all the metadata like XCP-ng does, but I'm a little fuzzier in how theirs works, especially because Proxmox is a separate physical server you set up. They want it like run on bare metal for their Proxmox backup server. It's not like a built-in function. It's a separate thing you load and set up. No, 2.5 gig works fine. I was actually shocked. We had someone running. How many VMs did that one company have that we had to fix their? They had a VMware set up and they had like 10 gigs.
That company,
yeah,
no, that was like 60 VMs and it was all 1 gig.
Yeah, 60 VMs. I mean,
1 gig. Our one lab and like that one EqualLogic that 740 is replacing that's running lab stuff right now. It's 4 bonded 1 gigs, right? So it's essentially 4 gig, and it runs fine, right? The reality of it is for everyday workloads, that's more than sufficient. You're talking 500 megabytes a second of transfer. That's more than sufficient for almost every use.
Yeah, and even with my 10 gig, I do have at the office a 25 gig interconnect between a couple of the servers. The reality is I can never saturate the 10 gig one. The only cool thing about the 25 gig one is the memory. When I'm live migrating VMs, the memory goes really fast between them because the memory's so fast.
Yeah.
The 25 gig is saturated on memory, but it does not get saturated on drives.
Yeah, we did that. You had to fix that on that one we just did, where I had it going over the 1 gig interface instead of the 10 gig.
Yeah.
And it went a lot faster once we moved it.
Yeah, and they migrate fast. Did better memory sharing. You can enable
doesn't it do
that in XCP-ng. It's not sharing. I did a whole video. I have a whole video.
It's memory overcommit.
Yeah, you can do it. I don't think it's a great idea, but I did a whole video on all the pros and cons, and then I did stupid things with it to show you what happens. So it's absolutely possible, but it's up to you if you want to actually do it. It works. It is completely a function you can use, so you can overcommit memory.
If you get low on memory, you are in for a world of pain and sadness that you have never experienced before in your entire life, because it is not pleasant when you overcommit memory and you actually run out.
Yeah. Here's a debate: is whether or not XCP-ng is better than Proxmox. XCP-ng scales, I think, better than Proxmox. But for individual one-off VMs, the fact that you have the GUI running on top of it right now is nice for Proxmox. But XO Lite is getting a lot of love this year. But it really won't be ready, I think, till next year for a replacement.
It's still pretty rough around the edges. I was just using it. If you need to just start and stop VMs, you're good. If you need to do any more than that, probably not so much.
Yeah. So it's
great if you've got somebody that doesn't know enough command line to start the XO server. They can use XO Lite to start the XO server and then be happy.
Yeah. But it's less of a worry when you're scaling it or when you have someone like this server. We've got 80 cores on this one server with 256 gigs of RAM. Oh, and I built out 18 networks on it, so it's
why.
Well, this is how we do the lab.
It's the lab one. Oh, yeah, it's that one. Okay, I didn't realize. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I love being able to do that because it's just lab 109, VLAN 109, lab 108, VLAN 108, so on and so forth. Then this is always how we built everything out, so we could just attach a pfSense to one of them, build an entire Windows domain and a bunch of Windows VMs as an idea, and they're all self-contained in whatever lab you're using them in. Works really well.
Well, we also we'll throw a router in there with the customer's IPs on it, so we can build out like a pfSense box and build out their entire network space that is the same IP addresses and everything they use with the fake ISP and everything to do that stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, we have two we call WAN Lab 1, WAN Lab 2, and that's what they are. There's simulations of whatever our clients have. Proxmox has integrated backup functionality as well. It preserves metadata. Just added an SMB share to my TrueNAS. Okay. I know there's something in there for it. I was just fuzzy on how it worked.
Yeah, I haven't really played with the latest version of Proxmox. I mostly moved all my stuff to XCP these days.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting about I did have a good conversation with a Proxmox guy about this because he's like right down to committing commits to Proxmox. If you are, he said, there's just nothing currently you can do with this, but it's kind of on a roadmap. Right now, I have this XCP-ng lab. And let's say I want to add another Dell R740 or 3 more to this. I don't have to reproduce any of this work because it's done at the pool. So each subsequent server added in inherits all the settings in the pool. That doesn't work that way in Proxmox. You have to hand build all the networking.
It's different than the way it works in VMware too, which threw me for a whole lot of this isn't where I expect it to be until I got used to it.
Yeah. Because if you have, me and Jason, Jason did the whole deployment on it. How many servers are that? Was it 8 servers?
That's just a 4 node cluster. The other one will be a 16 node cluster, though. That we're getting ready to start on.
Yeah, but it's a 16 node cluster we're putting together. So we only have to define the pool, and all 16 nodes get
Yeah.
all the settings, whatever those network settings are, whatever the VLAN settings are, they're defined in the pool, and subsequently everyone added to that pool gets all those settings.
Yep. You
That's
do
one
have
of the
to
things
go
I
into
kind
the
of like.
host
Yep.
and give
Same, all
IPs
your
to
shared
them.
resources that way.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to go in and give IPs to them if they need them, which it intuitively makes sense. The thing that was driving me crazy was it wasn't clear where they need to do a better job of hyperlinking stuff, right? So it's like you should be able to click on a network here and then just list all the hosts with their IPs. Like that's intuitive to me. Like some of the stuff you have to go to pool network, some of the stuff you have to go to a pool host and network on each host. It's UI UX stuff.
Something fun I noticed they added was this. I didn't realize, maybe it's been like this. I don't know when it got added. You can find things where IPs match. So this is 90, 93, 91. So if I put in .9, it starts finding out everything with that IP address.
That's cool. So it's just doing a text search of that.
Yeah, I was kind of a little thing. I wonder if I can. I didn't check if I could do this. Can I do MAC address searches?
MAC address? Yeah, I was just gonna say.
No, so close.
Back it up. Nope. No.
Hold on. What if we get rid of the colons? Nope. Oh well. So close. It does have kind of a regex search though, so it can do that. What else do we have in here? What's the next question? Is it possible to set up PBS in Docker on TrueNAS? I don't know. Not sure.
It's PBS.
Let's say my Proxmox VM started, was assigned 4 gig, but only uses 1 gig. 1 gig is only 1 gig is used in XCP, 4 gig is reserved. If ballooning is turned on, as RAM physically takes away from guest. No, I mean, I show how ballooning works. It's like I said, it's not great though. It's really one of those things. I think they're actually trying to wind it down because it just creates more of a support nightmare than anything else. Because the problem you run into is things don't want to release the RAM. That's
so VMware had a driver that would actually at the kernel level just take RAM. Like it would just start requesting RAM, which would force like standby and all the other RAM on Windows release and anything like file system cache on Linux would release. So you can do it. It's just, again, right, oversubscription is all about you end up having to do a bunch of QoS stuff, right? So like when you end up oversubscribed, then they have to have a whole swapping methodology for the host. Or what do you just run killer on a VM? That's probably not a great thing.
Yeah. That's I think that's one of the things I did in my video was just kill off processes so it released the memory again. But it's a weird, you have to have like the VM has to have some things you're doing to say, hey, quit caching all that stuff you stuck in RAM so you can let something else use it, because VMs aren't aware of another VM wanting it.
I mean, VMware, again, they have a driver doing it, but again, there's a whole lot of extra memory management that has to happen on the host to allow that to happen reliably. I don't know. I'm of the mindset now of I don't really need to do it that bad.
I agree. And memory's not that expensive collectively. You're not usually memory constrained.
Well, when you accidentally tip over, right? So if you can oversubscribe, you're going to oversubscribe. You're going to be lazy, right? And as soon as you accidentally commit more than the system has, then it's a bad time no matter what you do, right? And if you're not going to actually oversubscribe, then calculate what the usage of them actually is and let them swap locally instead of making the hypervisor do the swapping for you, which to my knowledge Zen doesn't support, which is the whole reason it doesn't actually do that.
Oh, there's a driver you load in Zen to make the memory swapping thing work.
No, the host level swapping.
Oh.
VMware, the host will swap memory if it is overcommitted. So it will write to disk.
Part of the Zen driver setup.
Okay. Not in the guest, in the host.
It's both, yeah.
Okay. So it will swap if you overcommit the host.
Yeah, I believe so. It's been a little while. I only did it as like a thought experiment video to show it can be done.
Yeah.
But also my point of the video was don't do this. I didn't think it's like, this is something maybe I need to do a video on because a lot of people get confused. So the words WAN and LAN were added far later to pfSense. When it started as monowall and in its early iteration, that's not how they really considered it. Everything was just, your devices on there. And assigned IPs to each one. But you can take what you consider a LAN, if you will, and assign it. And it will just route traffic that way. It just works is the easiest way to describe it. And you just don't turn on DHCP server. I think their DHCP server gives an error because it's a non-RFC 1918 address.
No, it'll gladly give out.
Really? Oh, will it give out public IPs? Okay. We're always setting them as static because we're just setting it
I
for
think
firewalls.
We just did that for that tribe thing, right? Like
you're right. It does work.
Yeah.
You're right. We did that one.
I think we actually
we're providing internet to an, well, we aren't. We just set up an Indian reservation and set up broadcasting internet. That's an interesting one. So yeah, you can just assign, you can go to your LAN, well, build a new LAN, don't destroy your own, build a new LAN, build a new interface and set it to Cloudflare 1.1.1.1. It'll work.
Don't do that.
Well, then you can't get to Cloudflare anyway.
Yes, that one.
That's exactly. Can you make use of SDN and Proxmox? Well, yes. Matter of fact, I'll admit from a cool factor and from a Linux nerd factor in JSON like this, you can do FRR and manage BGP and everything with the SDN and Proxmox. And if you define the SDN, you can join other hosts and put them in an SDN resource pool and not have to repeat your work on VLANs. That's a lot of command line configuration to make it all work right now. And I don't know if that's ever going in a web interface. I also wouldn't want to try to support my text on it. So at some point, the problem is, and this is the advice I'll give to all of you, doing a really fun, clever thing is great until you have to hire a bunch of people that also have to manage the clever thing and not make you manage it.
SDN is also to me a marketing term, right?
Yes.
So it's like which technology are we talking about? Like I would argue that MPLS is SD-WAN. Will those things support MPLS? Almost certainly not. Like
right.
Most of them will do VXLAN, right? Like
No, it's I have a video called SD-WAN as marketing, and I explain all the variations of SD-WAN. That way, when people say, "Tom, did you do a video about SD-WAN?" I have like 5 versions of SD-WAN in there. Because they do VXLAN and they call that SD-WAN. I guess it is.
It is. I mean, that's typically what most people mean when they say it these days. But it could be GRE overlays too.
Well, they also mean the overlay networks are SD-WAN, and so are when you bond multiple connections into one.
Oh, so LACP is SD-WAN? That's weird.
No. When you take 2 separate ISPs, but you want to have one IP address and you bounce it out of a data center.
Oh, that's SD-WAN. Yeah, that's SD-WAN.
Yeah. That's also SD-WAN. I know.
Yeah. Nested virtualization. I've only nested XCP-ng into VMware. I've not tried to. Have you nested XCP-ng?
So unfortunately, with 8.3, the latest version of the Zen, it's the core that broke. And it broke upstream. And there's a good talk. They actually have the talk linked in there in documentation now of why they did it and what problems they're solving that ended up making it break. So when you go to 8.3, you can't do nested anymore. Sorry. It actually is one of the things that they said it's an upstream problem, it's not an XCP-ng specific problem. It's a security problem they found upstream. So they ended up breaking it essentially. They gave there's a really good talk link to it. It really dives deep into the Zen kernel. It's about a 30-minute talk of really esoteric things about hypervisors, which is, I haven't finished watching it, but I will because it looks really fun. Glad to see we survived IT Nation. Yeah.
I rested most of the day yesterday. You weren't out there when I did the backflip into the pool, but I very much have injured my left foot.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. I wasn't even, I was like a half a drink in. Like I wasn't even intoxicated at all. I just decided to do a backflip into the pool, not realizing it was only like 2.5 feet deep there. Bad move. Yeah.
Oh.
It said it was 3.5 feet deep.
Was that like on the last? Was that Friday?
It was Friday. It was Friday. Yeah.
We did order. Well, we did. Collectively, our friends ordered 400 chicken nuggets.
400
So that
chicken
was the thing.
nuggets and a dozen crumble cookies. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so that's the ballooning driver, essentially, is what that is.
Yeah.
I was just reading about that, actually. I'm on the Zen Project wiki page about that to learn more about it.
Yeah. I didn't know this. Apparently, just because it's so well documented, it's easy for people to get into building things on top of Zen because of some of the broad levels of documentation. They've got a really good security team. It's been around the project's been around, I think, since 2003. So it's over 20 years old.
It's been around a bit.
Yeah. WAN and LAN are just logical identifiers.
Yeah. Yep. And as a matter of fact, the 8300s that we just got with the newest version of pfSense on them, the silk screen doesn't match what is reality inside of the OS. So they have LAN and WAN silk screened on the actual physical box, but it's not. LAN is right, but WAN is wrong. It's actually the port on the other side of the LAN port.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because the one I reviewed, and because I brought back to the office, doesn't have it. So the original ones they shipped were not silk screened with WAN and LAN at all. They just have the ports on them. See, I said I'd be probably streaming long enough till you'd be done with dinner and I'd still be here.
Yeah, I'll probably bail out of here soonish.
Yeah, eventually I'm going to chill out.
We tried to order 1,000, but apparently there is a limit to how many you can order, and we determined that limit to be
200.
Somewhere between 200 and 500 because of order for 1,000 and order for 500 both got canceled. The order for 200 went through twice.
Yep, order 200 went through twice, so we had 400 nuggets. And some really unhappy McDonald's workers.
Yeah, when you've been drinking, during a normal day, I wouldn't touch a McDonald's chicken nugget with a 10-foot pole, but after a little bit of drinking, they were mighty tasty.
Yes.
Heather may have seen them later that evening, and they were not good coming back up. She said there was a grease ring around the toilet bowl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have too many pictures of because as fast as they could set them down, they would disappear.
Yep.
So we were all having such a good time though. It was a good event. It was a good event for sure. Especially all the Malort.
I think I'm mostly immune to it now.
Kelvin has to be.
Yeah.
That Malort is so gross. Thoughts on pfSense and central management? I'm excited for it. This is one of the features that is just going to make it a little bit easier to manage. I mean,
it's a feature we'll need to actually support it more. The larger reason we largely do Meraki on the firewall side is centralized management. It's pfSense is kind of a little bit of a pain in the butt for us now.
Yeah, because you got to log in each one, and this will give us the whole central dashboard, be able to set things, set features. And I watched a video demo on how they do it. I actually like the fact that they aren't wrapping the interface to you; they're queuing and sending the data, so you can just push all your settings in there, and they'll get pushed. Thank you very much for the donations. We will put it towards buying some more Malort.
I do wonder if the Malort distributor is going, why does Southgate, Michigan have such a recent huge uptick in Malort sales?
I know my wife keeps buying more of it, and then she travels with it. So
I have it's out in the other room. I'd have to go get it, but she got me a gift box that has a Malort ornament.
The fact that there's a gift box amazes me.
And the fact that it says for those on the naughty list makes it even better.
Yeah. Thoughts on using those mini PCs as a small office server, given the solid backups on both offsite? We use them to have a jump box essentially with some of our tools on it for a client, but we're using
we use BDRs too.
Yeah. And I mean, we've had to use them in a pinch when there's things that happened. So I think we had one. Didn't we have one client we had to restore some of their services to it?
Yeah, no, I mean we've definitely run workloads on them. It's not pleasant, but it does work.
Yeah.
If he's talking about the mini micro tinies or whatever that Patrick calls them, uh, my fear there is it's hard to get any level of redundancy in them, right? Like you can't really do redundant power supplies. You don't really get ECC memory in them. You don't get like it's hard to get enough storage devices to really do redundancy there unless you put a RAID card in into a JBOD or put a HBA into a JBOD, right? So there's a whole lot of single points of failure for what I would consider a server. We use them for BDRs because if they go down, then we lose the jump box and we lose backups running until we can replace them, which that can die for a day and the world doesn't end.
Yeah. There's like a very niche use case from that way. The important thing is when you buy them, and I don't think I have one laying here. I just pulled it out because I was showing off that I was using like the Ace Magic one. I replaced the hard drive in it. It's got a Air hard drive. I don't know what that brand is. It's called Air. It's the only thing it says on it. It's just got a sticker that says Air. I'm like,
that's what's inside of it.
Yeah, so it's inside of it. But it came with an Air NVMe, and they use a lot of off-brand stuff. Now, I'll give this to the B-Link. I can't remember if it was Kingston or Crucial. I think it's Crucial is what actually B-Link ships with. Of course, that's why B-Link's more expensive. So you could either A, buy them bare bones without any drives in them, or the smallest drive you can get and replace it with a quality drive. Because I think that's your most likely problematic failure is garbage drives in them that just don't work or hold up very well. It's a challenge.
Oh, your bourbon's gone.
What's
Did
that?
you see
Yeah.
Jepson, the people that make Malort make bourbon?
Really?
Yeah, I kind of want to get some.
I want to know if it's good. That'd be interesting. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to the PF Sense central management. It's a shame is I always liked the way the central management worked for Untangle. They had a really nice central management. I don't understand at all why Arista bought them. Like, it brought them into the small business market, but then they abandoned the product. The product hasn't had like an announcement or an update or change. It got absorbed by Arista, and the only thing they did was get rid of the home user license, but the product is just floating away.
They took what they wanted out of it.
Which is weird. I'm not sure what they wanted out of it. Like, they didn't build a competing product to migrate people to.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Kind of weird. I didn't love the interface because they had such a weird if-then type of statement writing of rules, which always annoyed me. But what was really cool was their tagging features. You could use filters to tag traffic, and then you could build other rules around the tag traffic in there.
Later,
It had really good traffic identification. So, for example, you could take torrent traffic and then redirect it out of VPN. Like they made the easiest redirect any torrent traffic, just send it out of VPN because my ISP gets mad at me when I do this. It was like stupidly easy to set up.
So if you want my best guess, they bought it to try to make a competitor to Palo Alto, which has a lot of those similar features in the enterprise space. And then they probably realized it was actually a pile of shit under the hood when they finished and they couldn't actually use it the way they thought they could.
I would believe that statement. Also, it's open source and they could have not bought it and figured that out.
That is probably true.
Yeah, there's someone who didn't do due diligence. That's what I think happened.
Or there was licensing problems stopping them from doing it.
That could be too.
Like they couldn't get a CLA signed by enough people or something to actually relicense.
There was the proprietary part was all the traffic identification. They're using open source, but they customized the hell out of it. That's why when you bought it versus you could get the free one, but all the fancy traffic features and all that was all missing. When you bought the subscription, which was actually reasonably priced for their some of it, you got all the cool traffic management features and everything else. I thought that was a great deal they had on there. And we were a reseller for a little while, so we had some people that really liked it. One of the cool things you could do if you were splitting the VPN, you had a main site, their main office and enterprise office, and you wanted certain traffic to go there. It was so easy just to go and put tags on the traffic and say, this traffic needs to go out the corporate VPN. Like they just made it really dumb, easy to do. And they tied it to their Active Directory. So it was aware of the systems and what user was logged in if you went through the whole setup with it. Like they had so many cool features. Like they had this roadmap and then they got bought and it just kind of said, meh.
No, I think it's a product. I'll send it to you on Slack.
Okay. Should provide more context. Small nonprofit dental organization with basic needs who happen to be friends. Server could go down a day, no problem. Just restore from backup.
Yeah, no. HIPAA, run.
Yeah.
Run. like, dental means HIPAA. Too cheap to buy a server, so they're going to run it on the desktop. Means not doing any of the rest of the shit for HIPAA. Probably just want to stay the hell away from that unless you want to be on the wall of shame someday.
Yeah, you got to be careful with all of those. But let's say it's a hypothetical, not encumbered by law. The nice thing about cheap PCs, buy 2 of them. So
Yes,
if one went down, you have another plan. You can set up replication so things replicate to the other server. That would probably be a safer bet that way.
I mean, the problem is if it's dental, they're going to be running EagleSoft or Dentrix or something on there that's actually going to require a backend database, and it's going to perform like ass without something to make it faster.
Yep. Sentinel management will not be available for CE. I can just tell you it won't be. That's not going to happen. Just a little things here on my loft. NixOS build on it. Run Home Assistant, maybe Ubiquity Shoulder, Homelab stuff. I like Debian. Are you still a Red Hat guy or CentOS?
I run, I mean, I was. My personal stuff's, all my present personal stuff's for BSD, but I've typically used Ubuntu server. Besides that, all the commercial stuff, all the work-related stuff I've done has all been CentOS, right? So it's like I've kept feet in both camps.
Yeah. Like my go-to is Debian for most things. I like it.
Yep.
I was so angry at the stupid Docker snap package. That was a disaster. There's some moron at Canonical when they released a newer version of server. I don't know if this has been changed. I think it was version 22. If you typed apt-get install Docker, it didn't do that. It redirected and actually snap installed. But that created a big confusion because Snap, you have to do a bunch of permissions things to get Docker to work properly when you start modifying networking. I wasted several hours on that, trying to figure out why the Docker networking wouldn't work when it was like, I can't be this dumb. Like, I've done this so many times. It works on my other server. Turns out it was the fact that it was a Snap package, and you have to go in and disable Snap packages, and then you apt-get install Docker again and install Docker. And I was like really angry about that. So I'm always just like a Debian purist anymore. NixOS is novel. I don't know if I'll play with it. Conceptually, you ever seen how it works? It's like a declaratively defined.
Yeah, it's like a DSL to define your OS, essentially.
Yeah. Novel. My understanding is like I run just enough applications that aren't normal that would be a problem, I think. HP 10 or 110 small, DL 320 or modern equivalent. Yeah, I don't like the HP servers much, but you can sometimes find them for cheap. Off-lease Dells are great. One of the things about Dell that's so nice is the iDRAC for Dell.
Yeah,
doesn't have any. It's licensed, not continuous licensing. So when you go into the Dell iDRAC, this is a used server we bought, and it works fine. Like there's not anything I have to worry about. Like, oh no, will it work? HP has so many stupid licensing rules around even firmware updates.
Now that's not entirely true because there is an Essentials and an Enterprise, and you get remote console in both, but you don't get virtual flash and some other things inside of the Essentials version of it.
But it's confusing with HP because of the way you do it.
HP's a shit show. I always shit show.
Dell, when you buy them from like we buy these from Tech Supply Direct. Tech Supply Direct always just I don't think it's an option. They just always include the Enterprise.
No, it's an option.
Oh,
yeah, but it's like $20 or something. Like
it's not much. Go with the Enterprise. That's my answer.
My guess is, I mean, if I had to make a guess, they have some sort of keygen or something they're using to do it. Honestly,
I'm not asking what's going on the
I
back
don't
end.
really care. I mean,
No.
it works.
And clearly Dell doesn't care.
Yeah. Either that or they keep track of which ones had it and which ones didn't, and you get one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Ooh, Potato 2.2. That's been a minute. Yeah, the
I think I
I've
was
been using
Slackware
Debian
back
forever.
then.
I
think back, yeah.
yeah. I first started like using Red Hat for mail server stuff back in my first mail server admin job was 1999. So somewhere along the way I moved over because I got out of back then it was dependency hell setting things up with SendMail. There was always some dependency I was missing when I needed to do an update that always caused me drama. I remember like Debian when I first learned apt, I'm like, this is magic. And I kind of drank the Kool-Aid ever since.
I ran Woody and Sarge for a long time. Before that, I was running Slackware.
I think we all dabbled in Slackware at one time.
Oh, I ran Slackware for way longer than I should have ran Slackware. Basically it was like a bespoke operating system when I finally retired that box.
If you can justify an $800 switch, my favorite is the CRS 4XQ1N. That's a MikroTik. I can tell by the model numbers.
Then you'd have to use a MikroTik.
Yep. Yeah, the downside of using MikroTik is you have to use MikroTik.
Yeah.
You'll try to figure out how something works, and it'll be a magic incantation. You'll copy and paste, and no one will tell you why it works.
Yes.
You're like, just
or
put
you can
this
install
weird command in.
Or you can install SWOS on it and then scratch your head even more at some of the features.
Yeah. I actually like SwitchOS. I can do VLANs faster in them. The SwitchOS is a little bit easier.
But it's a lot easier for like a third of the features.
Yeah. 2.5 gig works in my Homelab perfectly fine. I have like no problem with it.
For what it's worth, back to the previous comment, almost every switch that does 100 gig should support breaking that out into 425 gigs because at the physical layer, it actually is 425 gigs that are essentially internally bonded to get 100. It's 425 gig lanes.
Dell costs enterprise is cheap for most compliance, so they just buy it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not everyone thinks about this, but that's how you got 40. That's how we went from 40 gig to 100 gig. 40 gig is 410 gigs.
410s.
100 gigs is 425s.
I think you can get single wide 40 gigs now though.
Yeah, they make an adapter for that. It looks very much like the adapter for the it looks like it's a QSFP. So it's QSFP is 40, QSFP plus is 100.
QSFP 28 is 100.
Oh, QSFP 28 is 100. Okay. My
QSFP
bad.
plus is 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought there were now optics that could do 40 in the SFP form factor. I'll have to look. There are definitely optics that can do 40 gig, not over as many pairs as you previously had to use, because that also used to use an MPO, if I recall.
Yeah.
40 gig did, and I believe you can get them now that just use a single pair, and they may do DWDM or something, but they work.
Do I know any 100 gig switches cheaper than MikroTik? That's why MikroTik exists, so they can sell you things that are inexpensive that go really fast. And so people can argue about how you pronounce MikroTik. Are there any 100 gig NICs that support breakout to 4x25? I don't know if the NIC supports it or not. A lot of the switches do. I can't. I'm not sure if the NICs do. Usually, anytime we have a 100 gig NIC, we're plugging it into a 100 gig switch.
I've actually never tried that. I'm very curious about it now.
Yeah. I mean, do we have a breakout cable? Don't we have an extra
No,
100
I
gig
don't have
card?
it. Well, actually, I think I do have a 100 gig NICs at the office right now.
I would say I think we have them
I
right
mean,
now.
the
Don't we?
breakout cables are only like $50. I'm tempted to just buy one just to try it.
How it will, can this show? Because I don't know if the NIC will divide it into 4 logical pieces.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh man. I don't know. It looks like the Broadcom NICs in theory support it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Huh.
Proxmox on bare metal and pass through some TrueNAS. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of virtualizing TrueNAS. Maybe I'll do a video on it because so many people ask about it because I like thought experiment ones, but doing the video is also a reason to show you why it may not be a great idea to do it. The challenge is if you're running TrueNAS virtualized, and what then people do is go a step further and also want to run VMs that use the TrueNAS for storage, you have to do the ordering properly when you boot them in your hypervisor, or you're going to have a bad time. But because there's 12 NVMe drives in this, I could pass through these. Not this one. I have to look at what, I don't know, that'd be tricky. Which one is it? There he goes. Here's all the NVMe controllers. So what I have to do is I could pass through all these NVMe's and then I could do it.
Oh, run TrueNAS on there.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about doing just that for a use case.
Yeah.
It works. Just got to
It
make sure you do
does.
the right ones.
All I got to do is click these buttons and pass these through, and it'll
Yeah.
work. Because right now, I've attached it as a local storage. So now we have 7 terabytes of NVMe ZFS storage and RAID Z2.
So for what it's worth, there are Intel NICs that for sure support port splitting. The NVIDIA ones do not.
Okay, well that's cool.
Yeah, you just sent me down. That was a rabbit hole I never thought I'd go down.
Yeah, thank you for the thought process here. That's pretty cool. Ideally, you want to run it separate. I did laugh. For anyone who wants to look it up, Wendell from Level 1 Techs has this funny video he did called The Forbidden Router. And he did something really neat. He built a pfSense inside of XCP-ng, but also passed the drive through to it. And the reason he did that by virtualizing the NICs or passing through the NICs, passing through the drive, because if for some reason your hypervisor drive broke, you could just set the pfSense to the boot drive and it would boot up and not be a hypervisor anymore, but just a router. And I was like, well, that's neat. That's a weird way to go around that.
So, I mean, essentially that's how ODA, the Oracle data appliances, that's essentially how they work. They run Zen on the back end, although I think the newer runs run KVM, but essentially they boot a main OS that all it does is it runs Zen, which boots another OS and passes all of the disks controllers through to it. And then those run ACFS, which is Oracle's cluster filing system, across those disks, and then NFS mount those back to the host to actually run guests. It's so weird.
That is unusual.
It works.
It's
glued together with a bunch of Perl scripts.
So my friend actually built this. So can you run diskless booting without iSCSI? Technically, there's a really cool project out. There's a couple of them actually, open source ones. My friend runs all of his Raspberry Pis, and I can't remember the name of the software. It's PXC booting it, but it's got a very custom way you can pick all the images it sends. And that way he can. What is it called?
Razor.
Okay.
Go look at it. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because that's the top post on there is Crucible Web I used to run, Fog.
Yeah, there's been a couple things that do it. The one that I last used was Razor.
Yeah. DRBL Live. Never heard of this one. There's definitely a few projects out there that are able to do it.
I wonder if Foreman just natively supports it. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, there's ways. There are some options out there. Link Station, is that one of them too? Oh, that's something else. I have not heard of Link Station before you just put it in here. Whatever links, I'm assuming this is the.
I mean, it's all Pixie boot in the back end, right? If you don't want to do like direct boot from SCSI, you end up doing Pixie.
Yep.
And like you can actually configure VMware to not even have a local install. It just Pixie boots. I'm sure you could probably get XCP-ng to do it too, with a little bit of work. But yeah,
drives are cheap. That's usually
for the it's more of a. Well, so the reason people do it isn't actually that. It's a like you want to talk about the ultimate cattle versus pet. Don't have a boot drive. I mean, it's like, oh, this server's acting up. You just reboot it, and now it's a complete fresh OS install.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely kind of there's some novelty to it.
Yeah.
That's right. If you derail the talk, that's all this is.
That's okay. That's
what we're doing is we're just going down rabbit holes that people send us questions on that we can answer. I set up a Fog server probably 15 years ago for a school. It was a big charter school. It's a beast of a server, but I did their 3 computer labs they had, and they loved it. They could reboot all the systems, and every time, no matter what the kids did, you just reboot them all, and everything was back ready for the next class. It was pretty slick. Kubernetes cluster with TrueNAS using ZFS. Kubernetes cluster can mount NFS and use it as a storage. So there's that.
Why? So this is one of those things where my first question is why?
Yeah. I don't push people to Kubernetes unless the only reason to use Kubernetes is because you hate yourself or you're going to get a job doing it. One of those two things. That's the only reason you're using your Homelab. It's one of those things like everyone says, but Tom, it was easy. I followed these copy and paste instructions off GitHub. I was like, update it.
Magic incantations. It's like, oh, I copy pasted my way to this thing working. Yeah, just wait till it breaks. There's like 7 people that understand how networking's put together.
Well, it's funny because that's what happened to Reddit. Reddit had to do a cold boot. You know what Reddit had never done? A cold boot. It was down for like 24 hours. They did a great debrief on it that too long didn't read. Kubernetes is hard.
Yeah. Well, so AWS has the same bootstrapping problem now that if a region goes dark, there is not enough data resident in that region to bootstrap it. They have to do like temporary VPN links to another region so it can talk to it's a whole thing.
Yeah. It's really weird because once these things get up and running and no one's ever turned them off for some amount of time, and Reddit broke theirs during an update. They were trying to update Kubernetes and they didn't have like the full way to make it work again.
Yeah, I mean, Kubernetes has its place, right? Like, I'm not super negative on it, other than it's one of those things that, oh, it's great, it's high availability, blah, blah, blah. But it's one of those things that I feel like in most cases, your high availability layer is what makes your availability lower.
Yeah. It's where things can catastrophically fail. Yeah. And there's a really good, I think it's called the Cloud Security Podcast. If you type in Cloud Security Podcast Kubernetes, you'll find an interview with the Google engineers. And they talk about the pros and cons of running it. I mean, if you're running a company the size of Google, I don't have another option either. It's Google. Like you run Kubernetes at that scale. that's what works. For your home lab, it's a fun thought experiment, but I keep things very, very simple for me because I don't want anything more complicated than I need it to be because I need things up and running.
I would recommend you run it, but you don't put any even pseudo production workloads on it until you understand it.
Yeah.
If you want to tinker with it, then tinker with it, right? But like, if you don't run anything on it, then you're going to be sad if it's down for 3 days, because if it breaks during an update, because the networking stuff gets a little wonky, it's going to be down for 3 days while you rebuild it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like Red Owl said, setting up some K3s, it's a good learning process. If you're going to use it for work, absolutely. Because it's way better to break your home lab than it is to break your work.
Oh my. Dude, no. 2 down.
Oh, which one?
Kelvin.
This one?
No. We don't need to be writing Erlang. Isn't Erlang like 4th?
I don't know. pfSense defaults to ZFS, and so should you. Whenever you install a new pfSense, it just uses ZFS. UFS is just the older file system. There's no, I can't give any compelling reason you should use that. I revel in chaos and pain.
Yes. Oh yeah. I've had to reverse engineer several Erlang bins for CTFs. It is not the language I was thinking of, but it is a very interesting language. It's a functional programming language.
We use MikroTik routers. You can pretty much do anything you can think of. Yes, you do.
Yes, you can.
And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
You should.
I will admit, the fact that my cheap MikroTik, even the basic switch, comes with BGP blows me away. It's cool. They have packed everything you can possibly think of in one box. But as we said earlier, there's always magic incantations you find in forums to get it to work properly. And there's and
it's running on like an Intel Atom with 64 megs of RAM or something, right? It's like, it's not going to hold even anywhere near a modern I mean, you need gigs of memory to hold a modern routing table.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. I think they're fun to play with. If you develop an expertise in them, you can do well in the WISP market. I've talked to some people in the WISP market, and there's a couple of my forums that are really sharp. And I mean, they are good with MikroTik. They answer people's questions, but that's what they do for a living. They manage thousands of these boxes with lots of custom. And even they're the ones I learned. They're like, look, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not well documented. We have our own internal KBs.
Yeah. I mean, the Winbox is I just don't, it's very counterintuitive. I like Swarm.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
I would generally probably recommend Swarm over Cube. If you're tinkering, it's a lot less complex, and it does many of the same things. It doesn't have a lot of the like super high end features like load balance. Oh, it does do load balancing. Okay. There are things you can't do with Swarm that you can do with Kubernetes. You're probably not doing them in a Homelab.
Yeah. I love this question. What are your thoughts on non-ECC RAM for ZFS NAS? You're fine with it.
Yeah.
I have a video I dedicated to this topic because there's so many people that confidently give you the wrong information. If you go through, and I cover this also in my ZFS as a cow video, I read through the documentation from the people who wrote ZFS. The way atomic writes work and the file checking that goes in there means you are not going to flip a bit. It will not commit the write with a flipped bit. So it's just not a concern. It will crash if ECC is a problem and it can't correct it. It'll crash, but it won't corrupt your data. So it's not a requirement. It's nice to have ECC. ECC is great if the option's there and the budget fits. But if it doesn't, your data integrity is fine.
Okay, my headset's dying, so time for me to drop out of here in a minute.
Yeah, at some point. I'll go a little bit longer, but thanks for joining as always. It's always fun to have Jason on here with all the network nerds, because now they send him down the rabbit hole of he probably already ordered the cable.
I haven't yet, because I think the cards we have are Broadcom. So, but anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Peace out.
All right, man. Later. See you next week.
Yep.
Got a call from a church. Lost the UniFi controller. Equipment still running with last known settings. Need help resetting. Not my install. Wonder what I'll encounter. If you don't have any backups from the devices themselves, then you're stuck. If you don't have the controller backup that'll readopt all the settings, there's a key that's created between the device and the controller when it's set up, when each device is adopted. That encryption key is all stored within the database. So if you don't have a backup of the database, you have to reset them and readopt them. So if you're buying gear, ECC RAM can be cheaper than non-ECC RAM. So it's much better for using desktop gear. If you trust it, you'll probably be fine without ECC. Yeah. Am I doing a show on Discord later? I'm not. But actually, are you interested in joining the live stream on a specific topic that people may be interested in? Or did you know CompTIA got sold? I'll start there. And do you have any thoughts on it? I know I was going to actually reach out to you to see if you want to do a video on this topic, because you talk a lot about careers in IT. But IT sold, CompTIA sold their certificate company to a private equity firm. That is one of my topics for next week to cover, and not everybody's aware of that. And I am aware of it and angry about it. I don't know what I'm gonna do about it other than rant on YouTube, but at least I'll raise awareness and shake my fist in the air. I guess that does something. So some guy on YouTube complains. News at 11. But this particular guy on YouTube, I did hear, no thought. I don't have all the facts. I will DM you. I will message you on Signal. So yes. Yes, CompTIA people got quite defensive on my LinkedIn post. Yes, I did not make CompTIA happy by posting about that. I do not have the answer on that particular thing. For the moment of right now, I can't tell you any reason not to do it, because nothing's actually changed and the deal's going to take a while to get to move. And as someone who would hire people in the technical space, I still, it's not that I'm only hiring people that have CompTIA certs, but it's nice to see when someone has some certifications, because the certs are still good to understand that you have a knowledge that we can summarize, that you're going, oh, I took the insert name of certificate and I passed it. Therefore, I know you have at least a knowledge of that as a subject matter. So yes. Yeah, I have a feeling that when I do the CompTIA video, a takedown notice may or may not fly out there. Throw in VMUG on there as well. I think someone else did that one already. I mean, I'm not saying they're the end all and be all when it comes to certifications, but it's hard. And let me give you an example. We had to hire a couple new techs. We're not that big of a company. We do have about 30 employees, roughly. 300 resumes came our way. Someone has to figure out some qualifiers to narrow down 300 plus resumes that came for a couple tech positions open. That's a challenge as an employer. So you want to use some vetting methodologies, such as, do you have any certs? Now, we didn't disqualify people who didn't have certs, but this is obviously just something that comes up. So I kind of get it for larger scale companies that get 1,000 plus resumes, that they also need some type of qualifier. I'm interested in getting the UniFi ecosystem. How limited are the functionalities when you disable remote access? Like, should I be off by default? Well, I lose 60% of features. You know, I'm gonna do a video about that pretty soon. You pretty much lose 0 features. The way Ubiquity works is a video topic I'm going to cover, because there is a lot of confusion that seems to come around with it, where people assume you have to connect it to their cloud. Ubiquity does not at all have to connect to their cloud to function. What their cloud does do is give you a site that you can go to and bridge to your system. But if your system is self-hosted, you can equally do this with a VPN. And that's exactly what I do. My UniFi controller is not in any way tied to their cloud and works perfectly fine. So I use all the features of UniFi, and the things you will miss. And I will cover this, but they do have like their magic VPN called, I think it's called Teleport. I don't really use it. but that you would lose out on. They have their Site Magic, that's the name of it, which is a site-to-site VPN automation. So you can take and just check a box in their cloud and have two devices talk to each other. That would be a feature you're missing as well. So you can still do site-to-site VPN. You just can't have it automated via their cloud that finds and discovers and connects. I use Encryption to pull out the automated backups from the UniFi controller, self-hosted. I use SyncThing, but yeah, whatever works. See, the alerts, once again, because the alerts are push notifications to their cloud, that would be a feature that's missing. It doesn't really have the facility to send you, it's just the way phone apps work. If you want a phone app that gives you alerts, the phone app has to get that alert from somewhere. The somewhere, if you're using the Ubiquiti application or if you're getting emails, is going to be through the Ubiquiti cloud. So that is another feature. It's not like the features, it's more like notification. I guess notifications is a feature, but they do have the ability to use an email server. So maybe that would be a workaround for that. Well, I noticed the UniFi Net appliance would reach out to AWS. Thought that was weird. No, this is how a lot of that's what they host in AWS. So it's reaching out to understand that there's updates. Can it not just email me? The problem is, and this is a problem for a lot of devices, a lot of people don't know how to put a mail server in. So you have to have a mail server that accepts SMTP. I believe, and let me look real quick, I believe that's still a feature in the latest UniFi. I don't use it, but let me look real quick. Do they still have mail server settings? Yes, they do. So yes, they have SMTP options. So yes, you can send email with it. Cool. I don't know how much we'll send through email, but yeah, it's just, I get it why they don't want to build two things, because most people will just use the cloud. You could also do what I do. My solution to this problem is syslog out to Graylog to notifications. That's the simple one there. Oh, cool. So, okay, so they have full SMT. I'm just not using that feature because Graylog is my central logging. Graylog sends me notifications. But I do need another drink. So I'm going to hit the pause button here. I believe I have. Where's that go? I have a Be Right Back clip somewhere. Thought I did. Maybe I don't have it. Oh, here it is. Be right back. I just found it. Then it went away. Hold on. Is Matt changing things on me in the back end? There you go. So I will pull up the Be Right Back, and then I will be right back. So I'm going to go grab a drink, and that way I can continue. Because I'm not ready to quit just yet for whatever reason. So drink time first. There we go. I lost a few people. Oh, let's see here. I ran Graylog in the cloud from my Homelab. Worked great. Cost me nothing. VM 50 gig, disk allocated. Cool. I've got all my servers set to email me from TrueNAS to Proxmox to pfSense. I've got auto flagging for those machines. My email notified important events. Yes. Absolutely. I am back. But yeah, I'll message you about the CompTIA stuff because I talked to people. So when I was at IT Nation Connect, I encountered IT and CompTIA because for those of you that don't know, I'll drag this over here. We are participants in CompTIA stuff. So yes, it says thank you for your leadership and service 2023. They are happy with 2023, Tom. They're less happy with 2024, Tom. That's how it goes, though. Yeah, I'll definitely. We should just. We'll set some time to just talk about it before the video because there's a lot to talk about. I have a lot of thoughts on it. Okay. The most difficult part of Graylog is, oddly enough, the email templates. The instructions make no sense to me. I think in my video I covered how to do the templates in Graylog. See if I can show any of them. I cannot. They have emails I can't show. But I remember talking about them, and I don't know. If I watched a video and I show you how I define it in the video, the latest video I did in Graylog, I show how I define the templates. What did Tom do in 2024 versus 2023? Well, CompTIA selling their system is what made that a problem. Do you prefer Intel or AMD based nodes for XCP-ng? Thinking of getting some new nodes. So if we go over here, share this tab. I have both. I have 3 Ryzens and an Intel. I've not had any problems at all. These are actually much lower power. This is an AMD Ryzen 9 5900X. These work fine. I've not had any problems with them. And my other Homelab, where did it go? Too many things open. Hold on. My other ones are all Ryzen as well. That would be here. And these are Ryzen 7s. These are some of the mini PCs I was running. So most of them I have are Ryzen because they're low powered. I think they work great. No, a company equally bad bought them, so it's just a different bad. Yeah, I seen that Linus got his video taken down. So yes. And then Network Chuck's video got taken down. Yes. So yeah, it's kind of a series of things. Does it even make sense to buy UniFi gateway if I only plan to have 2 APs and some server? I guess IPS is peer-to-peer of sense. And can go only with it. I mean, here's the thing about any of the firewalls. Does it fit your use case? Does it have the features that work for you? UniFi firewalls are fine if they have all the features you need. Functionally and security-wise, I think they're great. Unless they won't do what you need them to do. You're going, but I want this feature. For example, my friend wants to switch to UniFi firewalls, but he really likes Tailscale. there's not a Tailscale direct equivalent that works as well inside of UniFi. So it's not a good fit for him. But like my daughter, I put a UniFi firewall. Well, I upgrade. She had a UniFi firewall before. She's got a new UniFi firewall at her house because that fits exactly her use case. They play games. So it comes down to your use case and if you need something on it. Just at an iTech conference this past week in Calgary, CompTIA didn't mention anything about the purchase. So of course, they're not going to brag or talk about it. No one's happy when private equity firms buy things. The private equity firms do not have the same goal as a nonprofit. CompTIA was a nonprofit. And the North Star guiding light of these stupid PE companies, I was just about to rant a bunch of swear words together. They just are here to make money. How do you make money with CompTIA? Real easy. You raise the prices. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say it was this much and now it's this much. I mean, I don't know this. Maybe despite all other evidence to the contrary and the history of the company that bought them not doing this, maybe they'll actually invest in it. But I feel the opposite will happen. Intel seems to work better with XCP-ng. There's no issue with slow VM-to-VM networking and Epic with XCP-ng. Currently, there's a thread on it in forums. It seems to depend on the motherboard, but yeah, I know there's slower inter-VM stuff. And once again, it comes down to use case. Does that something that matters to you? By the way, for those you didn't know, while we're on the bad news spree, IT Pro TV several years ago sold to ACI Learning, and ACI Learning recently axed the people from IT Pro TV. So they kept it for a couple of years and now it's gone. So there's all the bad news I plan to share today. I don't know if that's coincidental to the CompTIA thing or not. That's the meme I was going to first post when I heard about the sale. So yes, you're right on for what I was going to say about it. I'm going to make my own certification nonprofit organization. Speaking of XCP-ng and Homelab, debate between upgrading 8.3 and switching to TrueNAS scale. Currently, I run TrueNAS core in a VM with HD pass-through. Yeah, TrueNAS cores on life support. Sorry. It's just reached kind of an end of life situation. Yes, the trainers are all looking for jobs. I will be reaching out to them tomorrow. I've already contacted some of them, and I'm going to see what if there's ideas floating around out there. But yes, they're awesome people, and I'm hoping I can connect them with some of the right people to put them in the right places. Welcome to the live stream. This is wandering towards the end because I've been doing this for 2 hours, but I can keep going for a little longer. One of these days I'll start in the morning and then I won't be tired. I'll just keep going. Just like I was, my son was telling me that it was some of the streamers that go for a long number of hours. I'm like, that's interesting. How long? If I started and I did nothing else all day, I could just sit in a live stream for quite a few hours. Because that's kind of what my life is sometimes. It's just like, it's kind of like a live stream. There's lots of Zoom calls, there's meetings, there's like me doing stuff. So I guess I could do that at some point in time. But that's today. I've been up since about 4:30. So from 4:30 till now is Tom's gonna get tired. Does FreeBSD have a future in the server space? They have a past in it for sure. I think the future, it's not going to go away, but I don't think it's the first choice. It's kind of the niche choice now. We'll see. The problem with live during the day is many of us can't watch while working, but I could get a whole rotation of people because when I start in the morning, if I do a morning live stream, especially on the weekends, I get all the European people because they're getting off work because of the time shift. So I would just like get a time shift over time where as the sun sets and as the sun moves across the planet, we get different groups of people across different parts of the world. Yeah, I agree. The IT Pro TV were awesome. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with I don't know the details of why they cut the staff and what they're going to do going forward, but it is what it is. Alls I can do is I talked to Ronnie not that long ago when he was at a hacking fest, and I've talked to him before. He's a really nice guy. There's just all the people there are great. So I shared all the fact that they were looking on LinkedIn, and I will do my best within my power to connect them with people I know to see if they land in a good spot. I would lend any help I can to what is a suck situation for them for sure. Oh, let's see. My wife is sending me Disney pictures. Apparently, she likes roller coasters. She didn't know that. I'm not a big roller coaster person. I am paid to be a geek. If I choose to watch a geek podcast, it's a valid use of my pay. Yeah. Yeah, I like geeking out with stuff there. Tom, you want to go to Disneyland? No, Tom does not like Disney. There's a reason I am here in Detroit. My wife is in Disney right now. Whatever Disney thing is in Florida. I went to Florida. My wife didn't come back because she's with her friends doing Disney things. Yeah, I mean, technically, I think podcasts, depending on the podcast, I'll self-qualify myself. While you listen to Tom ramble about home labs and network engineering stuff, we can definitely categorize that as professional development. Yeah, I don't know if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, but among the stranger things, so who recognizes who that is I'm talking to right there? There's the next Q&A. I think I got one more picture I can share. Hold on. Let's see if someone can figure out who that is. Where did the other picture go? There we go. Yep. So, because I was a judge at the ConnectWise event, yes, I got to have a conversation with him. He's a genuinely nice person. He was great. It was wonderful to meet him. He gave a great keynote talk at the event I was at. We got to go, me and several others, got to go backstage. Like it was super cool. He just talked about skateboarding, and I was just like, yeah, he was super. Those things. He just talked about skateboarding. He didn't try to make it relatable or anything like that. But I told him with his foundation and all the things he had going on. Definitely was a super cool. Cool to hear him talk. He did inspire a lot of us. Even if we're tech nerds, we generally liked a lot of the stuff that Tony Hawk did. And so many of us played, what do you call it? Tony Hawk Pro Skater. But yeah, I was at the ConnectWise event. I was up on stage. There's me and Jason doing panels together. So this is what I was doing for the last week is getting in front, speaking at a big conference. We both got our CNWR shirts on. Then I did a presentation separate from that because there's several events. Me talking about Security Onion and all that fun stuff. Meeting Tony Hawk. There's me as a judge for a competition. So yeah, if you wonder what I do when I'm not doing the other stuff, this is the other things I get to know. Oh yeah, and here's the the competition, these guys won $70,000 from the competition. So yeah, that's what Tom does when he goes to these events. It's the other side of Tom, I guess. So I tell people I'm going to be there, and if you're wondering why I go there, it isn't just to go and meet people, but I usually get up there and speak and everything else. Oh, and I also had a goose on my head. A goots, more specifically, for those of you that are in the MSP Geek community. Which RMM is P4P? I don't know. We use Ninja One. I'm not sure what P4P means, but we use Ninja One. I moved to DaVinci Resolve for all my editing. I realized no one really cared that I was using an open source editor, and pound for pound. All right, still Ninja One, same answer. But I used to think people would care if I did an entire open source workflow. Then I realized I was spending too much time editing and not enough time creating, so I moved to DaVinci Resolve. Pay for play? That's what I was thinking too. Pound for pound, we can go with that. I'm willing to use each one's. Yeah. What other? Do I have any other images I can share? Just stuff at the event. Oh, I've been chopping logs down too. We had to get rid of some trees. So we had to burn them, build a fire. These are the giant trees in my yard. We do not use any Kaseya products. I don't know this for certain. I feel Jason is not. I don't think Jason's welcome at any Kaseya events at all. My business partner, president of CNWR. Yeah, Jason is quite the critic of Kaseya things. We don't use any Kaseya products. If you're to host a web server in Debian, VM, HE proxy, SSL, what security software configurations do you recommend? I mean, the default settings are pretty good in HE proxy, so I don't know exactly what the exactly what it is. I'm not. I mean, best practices, but more than I can describe here. So the problem with things like threat locker and ring locking, it's really interesting. You can get a high level of security out of software that locks things down, so you can only run certain software. The problem is, if you have clients running a lot of custom software, it requires a lot more labor on your part to keep approving software. If you're running an office that just has Microsoft Office, like the most standard cookie cutter things, ThreatLocker can work really well. If you have an accounting firm running a bunch of bespoke software that may not be in a ThreatLocker database, now you have a different problem. So it's not that it's a bad. I like the concept a lot of allow listing and only running software that's allowed to run, but there can be some impracticalities to actually doing it. Yep, that was Tony Hawk. Could you do an update on the LNAV video? Yeah, I don't know how much has changed, but maybe I don't know how much LNAV has changed, but I know I've changed, and I'd probably do a better video today than I did 5 years ago when I did it. Just want to say thanks for all the excellent years of TrueNAS and FreeNAS. Awesome. I much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yes. If you think just messing with S1 has its challenges, wait till you get into something like whitelisting and allow listing of software. I need to buy a retail laptop for Linux. I generally like Ubuntu has some compatibility lists. Look at those. If you have the budget, Pop OS, System 76, they make some really nice, very compatible laptops. So that might work. Is there any reason to use TrueNAS scale over core with the primary need for storage server aspect and the hypervisor? Proxmox just makes more sense to me as a hypervisor. I wouldn't like when we sell new client systems, we're loading them with TrueNAS scale. We're not doing core anymore. So sorry, I'm yawning, but yeah, I can't give you any compelling reason to use core here in 2024 or 2025. Building my first Homelab and learning how to rsync things. That's awesome. Congratulations. I wish you the best of luck with your Homelab. And yeah, rsync to move the data. If you're going between Synology NAS and a new server, it's probably the easiest language. rsync is not the fastest protocol compared to some of the other ones out there, but it's the most common language between two devices. Therefore, it's popular. I have a video on how to move your Synology NAS data to a TrueNAS or vice versa, and rsync is going to be the common language that you use for that. Man, my glasses are getting worse as I rub them. What are you sipping on? A little whiskey. Yes, a little whiskey. Just because that software has a feature doesn't mean it's a strong point of the software. Yeah, I mean, true. True. How much longer should I go? Because I think I'll go till I run out of whiskey, and I'm slowly drinking it. But I'm super annoyed because I definitely got something in my glasses that won't come off. Do I have any woodworking projects coming up? No. Well, the trees in my backyard are huge. So there's not really any projects. It's just, what do I want to do with all this wood? You can see what I've done with a bunch of it. This is just, I stacked some of it. My neighbors took, my neighbors, I've been trying to get them to take as much as they can. So there's a ton of wood that needs to go away still. So yeah, there is a crazy amount of trees that we got to get rid of. We've been burning a lot of it, but man, there's just trying to find if I have another picture of us. All I know is we kept making the fire bigger and bigger. Most of my woodworking projects are throw it in the fire. Oh yeah, there's not much of a performance difference in there. What are some of your next cons you're going? That's a good question. Right now, the only thing I have left on my calendar for 2024 is MISEC. That is a hacker conference in Michigan on November 22nd. That's the last one on my list. I don't really have not much else on there. No, I don't really have a need for the Mac Mini. I'm not the biggest fan of the Mac ecosystem, but I do, full disclosure, have a MacBook Air. But to me, the MacBook Air is a fancy Chromebook. I mean, it's a Chromebook that runs Slack and runs Signal. Because maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Signal works on Chromebooks. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong on that, let me know. It's been years since I've touched a Chromebook. But I use a app MacBook Air because it runs my work things. And a lot of times I'm just in a web interface where I send a lot of emails, HubSpot, Slack. Those are my go-tos for things, and SSH. As long as I can do that, that serves the need. And the MacBook Air has great battery life. But Mac Mini, no, I don't need a Mac on a desktop. Once I'm at a desktop, I'm on Linux and I'm a happy person. Any experience or thoughts on Nutanix? My current company wants to switch from VMware. Nutanix is kind of weird. I don't like it that much. And by the way, one of my problems now, first, you will find a really good video done by my friend Rich at Two Guys Tech. He covered Nutanix, gave you a lot of detail if you want to know how it works. But my thing I don't like about Nutanix is they were trying to sell the company to anyone who would buy it prior to the VMware purchase. And the reason I say that's concerning is because if you take a privately held company, or not, sorry, probably a public company like that, and that has like put out there they want to be sold or want to be bought, I should say, they want to sell. Now you just have the same concern, because if Nutanix got popular enough, wouldn't Broadcom just buy them to, raise prices on that too? That's what concerns me with a lot of these companies. Yeah. I would, that part is the downside. Nutanix is a functional. Does it work? Yes. But it's hyper-converged only. It doesn't support external storage servers. I don't know if that is good or bad in your use case. Take that for what it's worth. Yeah, I am impressed. If I was needing really good support for some of these large language models, I think the Mac Mini would be a good deal. I'm not in need of that, so I wouldn't buy it. Like, I wouldn't buy it for a desktop, but if I had the need for a use case, it's probably one of the most cost-effective ways to get some of the LLMs working. I'm seeing some people post about it, and I haven't really followed it. I've seen like some headlines of that it runs them well. I don't know how well it runs them, but it might be one of those best bang for the buck to run LLM stuff is on a Mac Mini, and that would be pretty cool. Most of my synchronization is done via this. So all my data syncing, well, I have syncing for my real-time syncing, but like how do I back up all my videos? That part's pretty easy. We go to here to data protection, replication, and these are backup processes that send things to a remote location once every 24 hours. I don't worry too much. I mean, it would suck to lose a day's worth of videos, but I just every night at midnight it sends all the data over there. Mac has some of the fastest web browsing capabilities. My desktop browsers the web slower than my MacBook, and I wish anyway. What up, son? Almost done with my live stream. What do you got going on? Okay, something you want to tell me? I'll ping you when I'm done. And you never turn it off because more computers or 10 kilowatt solar array power to my current lab for free. Decision. Yeah. All the power it takes. I at my house try to be very conservative with power. Even though I have all this stuff going on. I have a whole studio here. but I shut everything off when I'm done. None of this stays up and running. So yeah, I think I'm losing my voice a little bit here. I'm almost done with my whiskey. That means we're almost done with the live stream. We'll give it 10 more minutes. Get your questions in. Yeah, I was chopping logs yesterday. It was a lot. Oh yeah, here's where'd that one go. Here's the other stack. We're building stacks on all of these too. These are all the logs we're stacking for all this. We stacked all this. Well, this one and a few more down. We're building rows of these from all the trees we're cutting up. I'm a glutton for punishment, so me and my neighbor are doing this ourselves because reasons. Yeah, I'm not too surprised by it. I think I've seen some of my friends put out some videos on it. I was never a VMUG user, so I didn't talk about it, but it's not a surprising fact that it happened. Oh, here's a fun picture. If you want to know how big the tree is, there's my neighbor standing on the tree. So if that doesn't give you an idea for scale for how big the trees are that we had to knock down in my backyard, it's quite the project. I've been joking. I've been doing the worst kind of log management I've ever done. This is a lot of work. Yeah, that's a big tree. It's hard to give you perspective, but this might help and give you perspective. That's actually my neighbor's wife. So, oh, I have a wood splitter too. We borrowed someone else's wood splitter, and that's what I've been doing. Hold on, where'd it go? Thought I had a picture of it. Somewhere. There we go. Yep. No, I got a log splitter, hydraulic one. So we've been breaking these down one by one. Any tips for expanding a VDEV on TrueNAS? Just expanded electric hill for that very use case. No, I mean, it works. I did a video on how to do ZFS expansion. I love that feature exists. I think it's great. Yes, lots of manual splitting. Man, I ran that splitter for a while. It is a lot. It is so much to do, but it's kind of fun building it, burning all the logs, putting it all, I don't know. It's kind of fun because there's a very tangible, I build a lot. I like building things with my hands. So I like the physical labor of it. And some of these trees are rotten. This is why they had to get taken down. So yeah, I run XCP-ng as my hypervisor. I got nothing against Proxmox if you want to run it, but I prefer XCP-ng. Oh, VDEV expansion is in 2410. Yeah, it works. I've used it. It's super cool. This is like for all projects, especially every project at my house. Don't set a deadline for when it will be complete. It will always take longer. Yes, that one. It'll always take longer. We're going to be working on this. We're going to be working on the log project through December. I'm going to be working on my Homelab project indefinitely, forever. There's always another thing to do. Yeah, I did do a video on ZFS expansion. It's easy. Well, I did the video because it's confusing as to where they put it. It's easy in terms of process. Once you know what button to click, it's pretty automated. But the fact that there's more than one place to click means Tom did a video on it to give better instructions. Do you have any thoughts on ZFS dedupe, especially now that apparently fast dedupe is a thing? Should I just enable it for most workloads? No, do not just enable it. I haven't tested to see what the performance difference is, but either way, dedupe is great, but it's computationally expensive, as in it's computationally a lot to keep looking at lots of blocks to figure out what you can and can't deduplicate. So they have substantially sped up the process, but at the same time, that doesn't mean it works good for all workloads, because as things get high intensity, do you have a system fast enough, or are you going to create your own bottleneck to the point where it's going to crawl? Also, how much data do you have that's duplicated? Do you have data that's duplicated? That's the first question. If you're looking at a workload that doesn't lend itself to deduplication, you're doing the extra computational part for no added value. If you have things that you know are going to be duplicated, well, cool, great, use deduplication. If I were storing, let's say, Windows Server files, like the base OS, and they're all the same, and we're not using encryption, so they'll be able to be deduplicated, cool. I have a bunch of homogenized servers with the same base, so deduplication would be helpful. But that's a niche use case. Do you have that use case or something similar? Yep. As of ZFS, well, TrueNAS 2410, I forget the ZFS version. It's the ZFS version that matters, but TrueNAS has it in 2410. Well, what people were upset about was, like, they announced this a couple years ago. It just takes a long time to make it into production because the ZFS people, and I love that they do this, they work slowly and carefully to not lose data, because you don't want to introduce a feature that would erase all your data. That would be bad. Last question. Do you have a TrueNAS box where it's 4x spinning rush and 2 MVB? Well, this is always a confusing one. ZFS ZIL slog is not a cache like you think it is. That's the problem. It does not write everything to that and then distribute it later to the spinning. So it doesn't write to the fast drives, and later on, when there's time, it'll distribute it. It's only writing pieces of the data. So it doesn't necessarily solve that problem. I actually have a person who's going to buy some consulting time with me just to hear that. I tell them that in email, but they want to talk to me. And I said, that's fine. That's a lot of the consulting I do. I will tell them, here's a video on the topic, but if you want to talk to me directly, absolutely. We can explain ZFS caches in a video call. Can you recommend a SFP XPON module for pfSense? I don't use any, so I don't have any answers on that. I don't think we have any clients using any, so yeah. And that's the other problem. I think it's very provider dependent, so that creates its own challenges. Always go more memory. That's the truth. I've covered this a lot. When we talk about how much memory we have allocated to, like, all the ZFS systems, we always talk about, like, even this, there's a reason this has 125 gigs of RAM in it. This is always something we push for people towards, is like, yes, get a ton of memory in your ZFS pools. Makes a huge difference in performance. Read performance, not write. Have you done any large deployments of OpenVPN for remote access? About 50 users, no Active Directory. No, not really any tips. There's not 50 users, isn't that much. Usually by the time they're up to 50 users, though, we're using Active Directory because yes. I don't know. I mean, normally it's using a little bit more, but I was restarting some of the VMs, so it kind of evacuated some of the cache because there's just not a lot running at it at this moment. But we have several, like, this is a lab one. Some of our production systems have as much as a terabyte of RAM in them. That's not completely unusual. I need to build TrueNAS for home because storing 3 terabytes makes you nervous. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it definitely displays the memory kind of weird. Why is it 124? I don't know. I'm not. I have enough whiskey in me that I can't answer the question anymore. Like, there was a version of me 2 hours ago that might have been able to answer it. I highly recommend you go with the 45 drives and the Homelab stuff. It's just great. Oh yeah, this is probably, yep. Good. The people who probably aren't consuming whiskey right now have answered the question. Unit conversions are hard. That's probably the answer today. Unit conversions. We'll go with that. Homelab ZFS deployments can make the normal ZFS not applicable. If you have an 8-tier tool, 6-tier movies, you watch material, you don't need a cache for those for 60 terabyte. Absolutely. This is very true. Something I'll share with you, and I talked about this earlier. This is my only core server I have left because it's only has 2 cores. But here's a perfect example. This device has 8 gigs of RAM. It has 2.5 gigs free out of 8 gigs. Isn't that impressive? We have 2.5 gig free. And we have storage capacity of 33% used. So it's a 30 terabytes of storage on this. And it's running 8 gigs of RAM. So yes, absolutely. Just go with brand. I mean, if you're not going with enterprise stuff, just go with brand name. Go Western Digital Black. What's the other one? Samsung Evo. Just go with a good brand. Yeah, I'm gonna wander off now. It is 2:33. I went a few minutes extra because I got 1 sip left. I've been up since 4 a.m. I'm tired now. I think I'm gonna crash. My son wandered in here because he's excitedly wants to tell me something. I don't know what. So thank you all for joining me. I'll still do my live stream on Thursday. And yeah, absolutely great talking to all of you. Glad I was able to answer so many questions and all the fun stuff. But yeah, 45 drives is awesome. See you, like I said, all next Thursday. I have a few videos in the queue. Well, they're not done yet. I got to edit them. So tomorrow I'm going to finish some more videos. I have some fun things coming up, and I'll get them rocked out. And take care, everyone. See you in the forums or hit me up on the socials at lawrencesystems.com. Thanks.